It's the I Hardly Know Her podcast, where we activate the improv power of yes and into our conversations to spark curiosity and expand our perspectives in life. Listen in as we chat with industry leaders who share their stories and skills to help inform and inspire so we can all be better individuals contributing to a better world. And remember, you don't have to be a big deal to do big things. Well, hello, friends. Welcome back to another episode of the I Hardly Know Her podcast. This week's episode features someone who is a kindred spirit in bringing play into the workplace. And I want to just jump right into it. I have Geoff McLachlan, and he is going to help probably reinforce a lot of the things you guys hear me talking about, but I anticipate with some fresh perspectives. And it's been really fun kind of nosing around and seeing what's going on in his neck of the world, which happens to be kind of close to my neck of the world, which is in Idaho. He's way up in our panhandle in Coeur d'Alene area, and I'm down southwest in the Boise area, but it's all really super close if you look at it on the global scale. So welcome to the show. Really excited to have you, Geoff. Thank you for making the time.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited for our conversation because as soon as I saw yes and, I went, oh my gosh, I love that. I know exactly what that is. I've been doing that for years.
Yeah. You know what amazes me is there's still an enormous amount of people who've never heard of it. Like, I feel like I'm talking about it all the time. And yet well, that's what happens when we go into the corporate space, and it's like we're reviving things. So I am really excited to hear about, like, I want to know, like, your origin story. Tell us a little bit about, like, your the what got you into bringing playtime into the workplace. There's got to be some kind of corporate vibe that you were like, okay, this is not working for me, and then you knew you could make it better.
Actually, that's a great question. I'm trying to think of, like, the origin story. Like, I can go back and then I can go way back.
Let's do a little of both.
Yeah. So the way back is I grew up on a playground at a resort in Liberty Lake, Washington, that my grandparents had. It was a family business. And so every summer, every single day was on the playground, interacting, playing, having fun with whatever guests happened to be there. And so, I mean, by the time I was like 15, I'd probably interacted with, hundreds upon hundreds of thousands of people in my life.
And were an extroverted little kid? Like, were you enjoying these conversations? Was it ever weird, or were you just like, hey, I'm the resident new friend?
I was absolutely resident new friend. It was like, you like to play, I like to play, new best friend, let's roll. And that's how it worked. And so that was the original origin story. So I gained a lot of skills there. Cool. And then as I got older, I got into theater in high school and loved it. I loved theater. And strangely enough, our theater instructor in high school was not a big fan of improv. He was very
I hear
classical.
That
yeah, very classically trained. He was like, that's not my thing. It's, we're going to go with Shakespeare and we're going to do very serious stuff. And I thought, well, okay. I still had fun with it. But when I graduated, they wouldn't ever let me be in a musical because I wasn't in the choir, even though I could sing. But in college, I got recruited in my first theater class. They said, hey, we really like you. You're going to come work for us this summer. And I got to join one of the top summer stocks, which was Coeur d'Alene Summer Theater at the time, and just never looked back and had just a blast. And I learned how to play and have fun and put on amazing productions and do all the things that theater really teaches you, how to be present and how to be fully in the moment. And and then I got into education, and I was a kindergarten teacher. I'm sure you can. I know, right? You can imagine the terrified screams as the kids entered the class on their first day. Mostly it was the parents that were screaming, like, "What? Why are you? Who are you? I'm supposed to have a little tiny female teacher, and you're like a big giant furry. Like, oh my gosh!" Terrifying. I had a couple of meetings with principals, and
interesting. They're like, "There's a Yeti teaching our class instead."
Exactly. They called me Sasquatch. Literally, that was my nickname, was Sasquatch. I mean, before the white beard, it used to be like reddish, so it was Sasquatch, but now it's Yeti's more appropriate.
Okay, all right. We're catching up to the nickname. Interesting. Yep. Okay, so how long were you in, like, kindergarten land? How was that education season?
It was fun. I was early elementary education for 4 years, and then I moved up to middle school. And middle school was interesting. Woodshop, PE. I have all of my fingers. Not all my students do. Gosh, darn kids. Power tools and kids, not a great combination.
Yeah.
But then, yeah, I worked and literally from kindergarten all the way up to 12th grade
Okay.
and got moved around a lot. Couldn't find a full-time job. I was getting in trouble for having too much fun in the classroom, which
Really?
I
Like,
was.
actually?
I was actually they're like, your kids are too boisterous. And I was like, but we're kindergartners. That's how we learn. But then in the hallway, they were like perfect. My kindergartners could
Ooh.
line up in alphabetical order in 30 seconds or less, completely silently, because it was a game that we played. We would
Yeah.
always play games, and that's how we learned. And they
Right.
were fantastic. But I got in trouble because we were singing and dancing, and they're like, "You're supposed to be doing education."
Oh
It's
my
like,
God.
so I kind of got a little fed up with the education system in that
Mhm.
it wasn't. I didn't feel like it was providing the best education for kids because they're like, you have to learn these things, and I was like, we can learn those things, but we can do it through play, and they'll learn it better and faster. Uh,
Right. There's actually science to back that, which I'm sure you're aware.
very aware. I didn't know it back then, though. I didn't know any of it, and that's the
Right.
sad thing because now I can go in and I can say, hey, listen, here's how we learn. Here's how we improve the process for the kids, for the educators, for the parents. Less stress, more fun, better outcomes, and it just
Yeah.
changes everything. So
I gotta ask, when you were a kid, what were your report cards like? I'm curious how they compared to mine with reports of
I,
behavioral things.
behaviorally, I got in trouble quite a bit.
Yeah.
I couldn't sit still. I was that
Yeah.
traditional ADHD kid.
Mhm.
Like I didn't like to sit down. Like I'm standing right now because
Oh, yeah,
I don't,
samesies.
yeah, I don't stand. I don't sit when I go to work. I sit when I'm in the car driving places most of the time. If I could
Yeah.
stand up and drive, I would. Um,
Yeah.
but no, yeah, I got decent grades because school is relatively easy. But I got a lot of snarky comments from teachers because I was a
Mhm.
smartass. So yeah.
Okay, yeah. Well, I felt like there would probably be some comparable things there. They had like they could pick certain responses, right? So it was like I knew which ones they clicked on. And
Mhm.
my report cards for several straight years always said, pleasure to have in class, talks excessively in class. And
Yep.
I had decent grades or whatever. And I was like, like learning now, like looking back on stuff, like the way you're teaching through
Mhm.
play, clearly that's a thing that works for children. It is also, as you know, something that works for adults. And so
Yep.
much of it now is we're having to decrust ourselves from the rigid protocols that we were learned, we're taught to conform to.
Yes.
And I think that's really both aggravating and fascinating. And I'm really glad that you kept powering through and took all those lessons
Yeah.
to get where you are today. What was like the tipping point for when you launched into your current work?
Well, strangely enough, one of my theater friends, uh, he was a stage actor. I was mostly the techie guy. I was like backstage
Okay.
building sets, running lights and sound stuff.
Mhm.
But I did get to be on stage quite a few times. I became really good friends with one of the actors, and he was also a teacher, and he got recruited to do like a freshman orientation program,
Okay.
internationally known program. And he finally said, "Hey, I want to do stuff with middle school students," and they were like, "Yeah, we don't want to do that." And he goes, "Well, can I do that?" And they said, "Knock yourself out, go for it." So he became like the baby company from that one.
Yeah.
And he kind of recruited me and said, "Hey,
Okay.
you should try this thing. Why not?" And I went, "Okay." I went and watched it and I said, "That's what I'm supposed to do. 25 kids
Oh,
is not enough. Give me 200. Give me 200
yeah.
kids. Let's
Okay.
go." And yeah, it was really fun.
I
Changed
love it.
everything. Yeah.
Very cool. Okay, so what are like current well, I guess two things. How long have you been doing your work? You have Professionals at Play is like your
Mhm.
company name now.
Yes.
Was
Yeah.
that what how long have you been doing it under this iteration?
Well, Professionals at Play, I started in 2016
Okay.
as the beard was changing colors. Uh,
Gotcha.
yeah,
Mm.
so I've been doing this facilitating experience and play for, I think I started in 2005, so 18 years.
Okay. Mhm.
Yeah, 18 years, worked with about 1.5 million people across the country.
Right.
And that's facilitating actual play in person with them.
Yeah.
And so a lot of work in schools, and I would do keynotes, but then I would also do trainings, and then I'd work with
Mhm.
teachers and that kind of stuff. And so 2016 is when I started thinking about like, not really my exit plan, but how do at some point, the kids are going to look at me and go, "Dude, you're just old." And they're probably not going to say "dude." They're going to say something else that they say because I don't understand the words that they use now.
Right. There's definitely a lot of lingo to try to keep up with.
Right. Yeah. So I started the company then, and I was having a lot of adults reach out to me and say, we would really like you to come and play and do some stuff with our group because we need to have a little bit of fun.
Yeah.
We are just grinding all the time, and our productivity is going down, and we're getting cranky. Could you just come in and have some fun with us? We need to laugh. I was like, sure.
Yeah.
So I just started playing and doing it in corporate, and it was really, really fun. Very
I love
engaging.
it.
Yeah.
What is your like favorite, or like what's your most hot product? Like what is the deliverable that everybody is like drawn to? Is it like a couple hour workshop? Is it like a full day experience? Is it both?
Well, it's very interesting because I'm kind of experimenting right now
Uh-huh.
with like the because I love corporate training,
Yeah.
and I will do like a half-day seminar with
Mhm.
a group or an organization and do a team build with how do we have conversations? How do we navigate conflict through
Yeah.
play? I you know, but it's all of it involves play,
Yeah.
and I'm looking at like the 60 to 90-minute keynote
Uh-huh.
because that involves a significant portion of play as well.
Oh,
And
good. Cool. Yeah, I love
yeah,
that.
yeah. So I just did a TEDx where it was pretty fun. It was very interesting because I don't think anybody's ever done a TEDx like I did before. So instead of actually just standing up there and talking and sharing information, I just facilitated a play experience. And
I love
so
it.
the most active audience participation ever, as far as I know. And
So cool.
it was
You can
it
make
was
sure to
great.
check it. Listeners, when you pull over, you'll see it in the show notes. Although we're doing video because I finally
Yes.
started doing some video. We're on Spotify video and YouTube. Many of the listeners are still listeners, but we'll definitely make sure that that link is available so everyone can check out your TEDx too, because it's hard to come up with a fresh idea in the TEDx space. So good
Right,
job.
right. And I've seen a lot of people talk about play. A lot of
Yeah,
people talk about it. And I you can talk about it and you're only going to retain so much. But the moment
100%.
you start to play, your retention goes through the roof. And then
I
when you
love it.
facilitate it and you have that experience, now you go, "Oh, I understand exactly what this is like." And you remember the experience. And I
Totally.
mean, this is like 4 or 5 months ago. And I still have people reach out to me that tell me, "Oh my gosh, when you did your TEDx, I talked to this person and we're still talking." They were
Good.
complete strangers and they're still connected. That's the power of play. It's
Yeah.
yeah, and you can't
It, bo-
talk
it
about it, you have to experience it.
It totally boggles my mind that because this is something that I mean, I know we have these parallels when you say it, when people come to talk to me about like a workshop thing, and of course mine's very heavily improv based, and yet it's the
Mhm.
same general dynamic, right? We're
Yeah,
playing, we're getting curious
absolutely.
with wordplay, unlocking
Yeah,
creativity, all that fun stuff.
yeah,
And it is interesting the barriers that are up, and yet and it's like a lot of it is the misunderstandings, or they like are afraid of the unknown.
yeah.
And my keynote is very much the same type of a thing, with it actually having some interactive components that they get to feel it, because I could talk about yes and all day long, but until they actually feel like what is yes and energy versus a yeah but energy, and then they see it in real time. And then I'm like, how is everybody so scared or reluctant? And I'm like, I mean, it just makes me so hungry to get
Mm.
more and more people involved, because it's like this release when you see people. Tell me about like when you're watching people interact, and a lot of them are probably nervous at first, right? When they realize, when they walk in and they're like, oh wait, we're doing what?
Yeah.
Or I don't know. Do people know what they're coming for? A lot of times they're like, they say we're having a communication workshop, but they don't say we're
Oh,
having improv, because they will call in sick.
yeah, they won't show up if you tell them you're gonna
Yeah.
play and you're gonna, like,
Okay.
interact with other people, they won't show up.
Okay.
So,
Yeah.
it's almost you have to trick them. And so, I
Totally.
just did a training for the, what are they? Insurance brokerages.
Uh-huh.
So and we were doing so insurance, okay, let's face it, it's a really heavy, boring, lots of reading, lots of information topic. And
Yep.
we were doing their ethics training.
Oof.
Ethics. And I said, okay, we can do this as long as you are comfortable with me viewing ethics through the lens of play. Because if you
Yeah.
think about it, play is where we learn the rules of life. You learn
Mhm.
how do we engage with another human being in a manner that is socially appropriate.
Mm.
That's the start of your, like, here's the rules, those are ethics, and then here's your morals. Here's what I think is right and wrong. And if we disagree, how do we do that effectively so that we can continue the game? And
Oof.
so it's a brilliant, it's so easy. But I had some pushback because in the room, there were only 25 people there. It was a small training, but we had people who had been doing the job for 40 years and people who had been doing it for literally a few months.
Oh yeah.
And they had no idea. And like the age difference and how to communicate. How do I talk to somebody who's literally 40 years older than me that's been doing this forever? And I'm doing it all on computer and using AI and doing all this kind of stuff. And there's the guy in the room that goes, "What's AI? I don't know what that means."
Oh
Like
man.
literally, we had a guy that said that. He's like, "I don't know what that means. Like, why? So what's a computer? I just call people." And
yeah.
and so just the juxtaposition of different generations, and oh man. But as soon as we got them playing, the interaction, the conversations that they had, at one point I gave them, I said, okay, we've got a person who's been here a long time and a person who's brand new. Person who's brand new, the question you're going to ask them is, what's the most meaningful experience you've ever had in the insurance career? What's your most meaningful experience? And they got to share what was meaningful to them about the insurance and why they'd been in it for so long. And it was fascinating because when I said, okay, you're going to have like a couple of minutes to talk about this, they talked for 20 minutes. They just didn't want to stop because they were so engaged with each other on the topic. The young people were getting such great information from the older generation. The older generation was like, I get to pass on something that I've done that I'm really proud of, and I get to hand it to somebody else. Here's how I've been successful.
Yeah.
And they started sharing stories, and you watch them and they literally are leaning in.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Right. The lean in. And I mean,
Yeah.
I was involved, like people are like grabbing each other's shoulders and they're like giving each other like it was amazing. And that doesn't happen without play because the play breaks down the barriers. It breaks down the social barriers that people have. And when you play, you do yes and activities. The environment is safe because you're allowed to mess up. It's a great place to screw up because the repercussions are nominal, right? It's like, oh shoot, I said something wrong. Okay, I'm a little bit embarrassed, no big deal. But we all laugh about it. And when you laugh, you release, the brain chemicals that allow you to go on and try new stuff. So it boosts your creativity. I mean, it's just all the stuff.
I love it. And the thing that I think people get nervous about it, probably because we're so out of practice with playing and connecting. And yet the tools, like the actual principles behind, what I teach, and I'm sure the same with you, is like they're simple and accessible to anyone. And
Absolutely.
then when you put it into play, I love what you're talking about with them leaning in and seeing people have that like stress release right before your eyes, and then seeing the way that it brings them together and they're laughing together. It's not like laughing at each other. And I mean, it's so yummy. I can't get enough of it. It's just like,
it just brings you joy. For me, it's like when I watch them lean in, when I watch them laugh, when I watch them engage, like truly engage, when they're fully present, they're not holding onto a phone. They are like locked into each other. Like that truly brings me joy and happiness. And I'm like, okay, cool. If nothing else goes right today, that did. And they have connection, and connection is super vital for success.
Oh, I love it. Okay. So you work in the workplace, but primarily, right? We're taking play into the workforce. What do you see though, or what do you hear though from the personal level? Because for sure it helps in the workplace, but do you hear feedback from people about ahas they're having for themselves in these moments?
I get a lot of people that say, I haven't played like that in a long time, or I haven't laughed like that. I haven't felt like it's funny. I sometimes play tag with groups of people, and obviously as we level up, I call it. I'm no longer calling it getting older. I'm calling it leveling up.
I like that way better.
Yeah, I am now a level 47, and I feel freaking awesome. So
I love it.
As we level up, like certain things get harder. And so if I say we're going to play tag, people start to get like, whoa, like that's like, oh man. Cause they remember tag like as a kid, right? Like you're running full tilt boogie and you might run smack into a tree and, everybody points and laughs. But if you establish the rules where it's got to be only walking, no running, just walking only, and you give them a very small boundary, like here's your play area right here. If you go out of bounds, you're automatically it. And then here's the really fun thing. It's you versus another partner. One-on-one tag. Just one-on-one. but everybody's got a partner, and you get a room of 100 people. That's 100 people or 50 people trying to tag another 50 people, and it is chaos.
Oh my
But
gosh.
it's hilarious.
Yeah.
I honest to God, I've had people who have been laughing so hard that they literally stop playing, and they're literally on the ground, like holding their stomach, like laughing and rolling around. And like, that was like doctors and nurses, and
Yes.
like, because they were having so much fun, and the screams of joy that,
Mhm.
yeah, that people get from play. They immediately revert back to their childhood, and it's like the weight of the world is lifted off their shoulders, and it
Yes.
just creates an environment. So that's what I see a lot of, is people going, I haven't laughed that much in a very long time. I feel
Yeah.
so much better, and I feel like I'm more connected with my team. That's the
Mhm.
big one, is that connection piece.
Yeah, oh, huge. Yeah, and so much of it becomes really nonverbal. It's just that they're allowing themselves to exist and
Mhm.
collaborate with a different type of communication that it's really unmatched, which is why it's so freaking awesome. Ah!
Right? I always think about, like, The Office, when,
Uh-huh.
like, there's tons of memes, right? But you watch The Office, and then somebody will say something, and then they'll, like, pan over to somebody else, and they'll be like,
Mhm.
just a look. Like,
Oh, yeah.
just having those little looks where you understand something with a coworker can be so enlightening, so engaging, just for the camaraderie. Because you
Yeah.
go, oh, like, there's always that one worker you shouldn't be allowed to sit next to at serious meetings.
Yeah.
That's all of them. That's
I
me.
know.
All of
I
them.
was like, I feel like I was probably the person no one was supposed to be
Yeah.
sitting next to. Although bless some of my employers' hearts, I had a couple of leaders in my life who saw that about me
Mhm.
and let me play that to my advantage. When I was in corporate still, if we had like a new product rollout or like if bad news needed to be delivered, like I used to work at a bank. I used to work at Washington Mutual, which I don't know if you remember
Oh,
that. It was
yeah.
the
Oh,
one
yeah.
that
That was
it
my
was the
first one.
large. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, it
Yeah.
was the largest bank failure in the history of mankind still
Yeah.
today, but we were
Yeah.
seized by FDIC in 208 or 2008 and then
Yeah.
became Chase overnight.
Yep. Yep.
And then they wanted this announcement to be made to our regional employees, and they had me come talk them through it. And I'm like, I was a branch manager, but I wrote this like parody song to Rihanna's Umbrella about like we're still gonna or come and see our friendly Tella Ella, it was some stupid parody that I was like singing about Wamu was in our heart, but I was like, oh, that I realize now that that was so cool that they knew that that would be like the buffer for this like really
Mhm.
jarring
Right.
situation that we were in. And I
Oh,
didn't always
yeah.
have that kind of support. I was generally, yeah, like the troublemaker, but yeah, see, we're just already like super besties and just meeting
Oh.
on this first call. So what are some words of advice that you would give to people just in the daily grind of how we can just infuse a little bit more joy? How can we bring some self-awareness around that?
I'm a huge proponent of doing the best you can until you know better, and then do
Mm,
better.
mhm.
But my whole thing is work hard, play fair, be kind.
Love it.
And if you work hard at what you do, that's great. Play fair, meaning if everybody's playing by the same set of rules, everybody has the same chance for success. And then
Mhm.
always be kind, like to yourself and to others. It's really not that hard. You do those things, you will always be successful and always come out on the other side smelling like roses. Unless, of course, you've been playing tag in the field with cows, and then you might smell like something else.
Right? Oh, so you do a lot of stuff in, teams can hire you and you
Mhm.
travel anywhere, right?
Yeah. Oh
You're
yeah, all over
mother
the
effing
country.
global. Let's take this guy
Yeah.
wherever on planet Earth you want to bring some play.
Heck yeah.
Um, and then in the northern Idaho area, you have an
Mhm.
event coming up, and that's something that people can just register as
Yes.
general public. Talk to us about what that
Yes.
is. What's the
Uh,
experience?
we are having a little conference, a little business conference, mental health and wellness in the workplace. And it's
Oh, cool.
myself and a couple of my friends who are speakers, Greg Kettner and Tony Rubleski,
Yeah, yeah.
and they're great, great people. And we are just going to run a simple little, like a 90-minute, maybe 2-hour workshop in May. I think it's May 23rd, I
Okay.
believe, in
Cool.
Coeur d'Alene at the hospice, the North Idaho Hospice Center. And
Nice.
so, yeah, just a chance to come and how do you work with your employees? How do you take care of them? how do we take care of our employees so that they also take care of our clients? And
Cool.
it's going to be fun and engaging because that's kind of how we do
Kind of
things.
your jam.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So this is a great fit for any leader within a different company. I mean, because mental health strategies is important
Yeah.
industry, regardless of industry. So
Yep.
this is something that like anybody who just has their, well, yeah, wants to have that infusion of goodness into their workplace and
Yeah.
wants to learn more about how to do that. Cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, everyone needs to check the show links for that. I mean, it might be something. Is this something that people could just come travel to attend? I mean, it'll
Absolutely.
be action packed, right?
Oh yeah, I mean, we're trying to make it fast and furious for the people that are in the town, because obviously
Yeah.
people are like, oh, okay, we still have to go to work. We've set it up so it's
Oh,
really
sure.
easy to access, so
Cool.
that you get a nice little view, and then we'll have some nice leave behinds for people. Like, hey, I'm gonna give them like I have a little ebook that I wrote. Like, here's some activities you can do in the workplace that are fun,
Perfect.
engaging, and then how do you have conversations around those? Because
Yeah.
fun for the sake of fun is great. But in business, oftentimes we get mixed up and people go, oh, well, fun is putting a ping pong ball table in the break room, and now we're going to have good corporate culture. It doesn't quite
Oh
work
my
that
God.
way. You have to have
Right.
fun with a purpose. There's got to be intention behind it. And so how do you have the conversations behind the activities? So you go, now we can have like, oh, we can talk about stuff. Yeah, this is okay, cool. We played, we had fun, and we can talk and move forward and have more creativity and all the good
Yes.
stuff.
I love that. And I know that my energy was starting to feel like, oh, I think we kind of are coming to this little natural close. And then I thought of two more things I want to talk about with you. So wait, there's more, folks. Because what you just said reminded me of how like people want to like squeeze things in, and yes, we want to get stuff in a quick, meaningful way. And a lot of times, I don't know if this is true for you, but I know in my space, a lot of times people are like, oh, can you come and just do like a quick team building thing, or like an icebreaker? And I'm like, because they don't realize the depth. And I
Right.
know that's what you deliver to. I can
Oh,
already tell that they're changing, they're reverting back to some of the hidden treasures from their childhood that have been locked away for so long.
yeah.
And so I guess my pull to bring this up is to re-emphasize how important this work is that you're doing.
Yeah.
Playfulness is more powerful than a lot of people want to give it credit for.
Mhm.
And maybe it's because it is so simple, or I don't know. I don't know
Yeah.
what it is. I don't know
Well,
why people are so resistant.
right. Right. Well, the simple is profound. So if you think about it, in education, we got taught to sit in the chair and listen to the teacher, do
Yeah.
your work, and then here's your homework. So after school, during your free time, we're going to give you more work to work on. So
Yeah.
we're training kids to be a good little worker in the system,
Yep.
and to just follow directions and don't question stuff and do extra work on the side. So grind, grind, grind all the time.
Yeah.
And we're slowly taking recess away in schools
Oh, yeah.
because we need more academics, not realizing that the recess allows for the academics and that it's vital for kids to learn.
Yeah.
Uh, but then as adults, if you grind all the time, you work 9 to 5, or if you're lucky, you work 9 to 5, and then
Right.
you've got to commute, and then you
Yeah.
get home on a weekend, and what do? Okay, great. I'm going to have some drinks. I'm going to try and forget the week and like just try and de-stress. So you're not going to probably be sleeping well because
Mhm.
alcohol doesn't do that for you. But then you don't really recharge your battery on the weekend. Play is one of the great rechargers. It
Yeah.
is the thing that like helps fill your soul. And if you think about productivity and creativity and how does a team work together, it's not an overnight. I can't just come in and say, all right, cool, we're going to play a little game and everybody's going to feel happy, and then everybody's going to be that much better, and you're going to get a boost of you know all the your profits are going to go up 17%. It doesn't quite work that way. You have to be dedicated to a process and
Yeah.
intentionally putting play in your work day, maybe having a little more fun at the weekly meetings or something like that. It's just simple questions can
Yeah.
totally change your culture, and
Agree.
allowing people to have fun. Because what happens when people go from I have to go to work to I get to go to work?
Oh, yeah.
Your
Totally.
engagement, everything like just skyrockets. And when people want to go to work, they're going to be more productive. They're going to be
Mhm.
better at everything. The environment is going to feel good. You're going to have less stress, less mental health issues, less days missed, which
Yeah.
equals more productivity, which equals higher profits.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. It is. I want people to hear it. If you guys are out there listening and either you are working at a job where you're feeling like meh, with the people that are like not looking forward to Monday, I remember being in that situation in the past, and we don't have to live like that anymore. Like
Heck no.
recommend to your boss or whatever, your leadership team, that you need these types of things for a healthy dynamic for your individual well-being.
Yep.
It's just so critical, and I appreciate the work that you do. Then I did want to make one quick note too, because I love when we can help promote nonprofits and different organizations that are putting so much work in.
Mm.
And then I noticed that in Idaho, your Idaho Drug-Free Youth is a nonprofit of choice. And
Yep.
I am curious on what drew you into that connection, and what kind of little shout out and love we can give to those folks putting in so much work.
Okay. I love my Idaho Drug-Free Youth people because we are all about empowering youth to lead happy and healthy lives.
Uh-huh.
And so it totally, have to say our entire culture is play. The entire culture of it is how do we get kids to be healthy and happy? Well, they have to play, they have to connect. And
Yeah.
that connection piece, as especially post-COVID, as we've seen mental health issues, exponentially rise in everyone, and especially kids. Idaho Drug-Free Youth has created an environment where they can go to connect, where they can literally, like, we have online stuff, we have groups, we have little, we have school organizations. And then every year we do a big giant party in the summer. We call it the Idaho Youth Summit. And I love it because it's seriously one of the most magical places I've ever been to. It's up here in Coeur d'Alene, and we bring 150 to 250 kids up, and we scholarship a lot of them. This is the cool part, is that we get scholarships for as many kids as we possibly can. So a majority, I want to say it's something like 70% or so of our kids are scholarshiped. They don't have to pay. And so, so we, just provide an opportunity for them. And there's kids, I know it's Idaho Drug-Free Youth, but our message isn't don't do drugs. Our message is come join us. We're going to love you until you love yourself. We're going to support you until you support yourself. Like, and it's like, it's that moment where, like, literally getting these kids to lean in to connection in person, live with other human beings that care about you. And it's the coolest thing ever. That's my people. We play a lot. We do.
Cool. That's so good. And the youth, I'm feeling really hopeful about things in our country based off of the youth currently. And people like you who are putting such a large amount of investment of time and energy and teaching these tools, so that we're breaking bad patterns and we're releasing from the shackles of these things that were really challenging for us, for our age group. I'm like, oh my gosh, they're so smart, they're so sharp, and when they're given really effective tools, I do think there's some huge promising changes that will be more equitable in our country with this next generation. They're so freaking awesome.
Yeah, they're amazing. I still love working with kids. I
I
still
was
do
gonna
a
say,
lot of work at
you didn't
schools.
go too far. You just needed to change the venue of how you were able to work with them, and that is really awesome. I can definitely tell there's a lot of passion there. That's really cool. I love it. Cool. Well, I am so grateful to have met you. What an awesome referral from those of you that have been listening along. You were referred to me by Greg, who's awesome.
Was it Kettner?
Yeah, Kettner. Yeah, and I actually heard your episode on his podcast. It's sort of like this whole circle of life. I've known him for many years. He attended my comedy festival back in the day when I used to host a huge comedy festival in Boise, and we've stayed connected, and just big fan of people in the space doing this work. And so thank you so much for taking time to join me and to share some of your energy and insights with our listeners. And I wish you nothing but success and joy.
Well, thank you so very much. I appreciate your time. And I look forward to someday, and I don't say this to everybody, but I really look forward to sharing a stage and like getting to play and have fun and doing some cool, funky things. Like,
the wheels are already turning. I'm like making notes over here. I was like, oh my gosh, we should totally do a conference sometime.
Oh yes. Yes. And go big total support.
Yep. I love it.
A better place. Yep.
Cool. Well, I can't wait to stay connected. And thank you everyone for tuning in. We'll catch you on another episode of the I Hardly Know Her podcast. It's been so fantastic, Geoff. Talk soon.
Thank you very much. Bye, everybody.
Thanks for tuning in to the I Hardly Know Her podcast. For information about leadership workshops, public speaker training, and all things kooky Megan, check out improvteamculture.com. We'll catch you next time.